Hello, welcome to my presentation about the writing process, a research-based approach to cross-content writing to learn practices. My name is Jessica Dunham. This presentation is for EDU 743 for the University of New England. So, to begin with, a brief overview prior to diving into the research. Quote from McDermott and Kunn: "Writing to learn is a strategy for writing instruction within the content areas that require students to engage in writing activities that involve high-order thinking in combination with high-level conversation skills for students to be able to produce writing for an audience that is other than the teacher." So what this means is, looking forward through this presentation, it's my goal to present to you ways to support our writers through research-based writing instructional strategies that help them engage in higher order thinking, that are reflective in nature, student-centered, based around choice, yet authentic writing experiences that relate to their future educational careers, even beyond the classroom. So all of these experiences show our writers that our writing has a purpose and a place in the world, and that generating writing that has a greater and deeper sense of purpose and meaning is important. Um, so through this presentation, I want to make clear that there are research-based best practice approaches to making this type of learning available to students. First, I'd like to take the opportunity to give you a brief overview of the research entailed that informed these best practice approaches in the classroom. There are 4 total articles that are contained within this research. The first is by Ryan Hughes. It's called "Why Historical Fiction Writing: Helping Students Think Rigorously and Creatively." The next is, this article explores the implications of the Common Core State Standards on writing at the elementary level. The article explores how, through engaging in the writing process to produce historical fiction writing, students are encouraged to think deeper and more rigorously about historical events, time periods, and also taking on multiple perspectives and thinking almost empathetically while engaging in this type of historical inquiry work. The next research article is called "Creative Assessments," Danny Litchfield and Hallman Thrasher. This article explores methods for formatively assessing student learning within the content of science and looks specifically at the RAFT strategy, which is in many ways a writing to learn strategy, and it allows students to demonstrate what they know and how they think about a topic without just delivering information directly back to the teacher that has no practical application purposes. The next research article is called "The Right Time to Start Writing" by Casa. And this article is based around the content area of mathematics, and it explores the importance of communicating mathematical thinking through writing experiences and how the Common Core State Standards have influenced that. So in this article, the author talks about persuasive and informational writing and how they can both be utilized to structure mathematical writing for students. The last article is called "Communicating Like a Scientist with Multimodal Writing" by McDermott and Kunn. And this article explores different ways to integrate authentic models of writing from science into what students are producing based from mentor texts and other resources. So in this article, Writing to Learn activities are explored and how they can empower students to communicate their scientific thinking. So to start talking about the practical application of these research-based approaches, research has shown us that students are positively impacted by writing experiences that are student-centered, choice-driven, and layered with not only high-quality teaching, but also mentor texts. So writing to learn activities take this concept and they challenge the traditional role of writing within an elementary classroom, which creates an opportunity for a shift in the mindset for both the teacher and the students. Writing to learn activities provide students with flexibility and variety in how they showcase their learning. They're inherently differentiated for students to accommodate learners of all preferences and needs. And then finally, writing to learn generates a greater purpose for writing, seeking connections with real life topics and real life issues that students might be experiencing every day or have heard about. So I'm a fourth grade teacher, and I thought practical application of these research-based approaches within a fourth grade classroom would be taking our units of study that I've experienced for a few years now and applying this research um, to what we do. So within my classroom, our social studies units are integrated with, one of them is integrated with a historical fiction writing unit based around World War II. So what I did was I looked at the research from Hughes and found that there were several things that could be applied within our own curriculum. Um, Creating opportunities for background knowledge to ground knowledge about the specific time period, creation of a timeline of major public events and technology and social developments of the era, once again to ground student thinking. Instruction in the area of primary and secondary resources, immersion in maps, photographs, videos, and other non-traditional resources outside of text-based. So we're talking about text sets that are created with an abundance of information to supply students with the knowledge that they need to move forward. The use of thoughtfully selected mentor texts prior to the unit and during the unit to help students gather historical information from historical fiction stories. Um, this could be about the clothing worn during that era, jobs that were provided, transportation that was available, language, entertainment, lots of areas. And then finally, Hughes recommends um, verbal rehearsal of story timelines prior to writing, either with writing partners or within small groups, kind of review the historical significance behind what students are going to be writing about. The next content area would be within science, within a fourth grade classroom. We have my district is in the midst of a transition with our science curriculum, working towards adapting to the new NGSS standards. Here are some of the resources from the creative assessments research article and the communicating like a scientist research article that could be applied within the classroom. So writing like a scientist creates these writing to learn opportunities. Um, Writing activities that involve communication in a variety of ways to the audience, and an audience that's other than the teacher is the key, is what research indicates. Um, Teachers should consider factors such as the intent of the writing, how students will produce it, maybe a menu of choices for writing activities, and also considering the audience that the student will write to engage when looking to create these assignments and even potentially assessments. All of that information as well would be really important if teachers were creating rubrics or guidelines, say for some type of culminating assessment. All of that would need to be considered. Um, within research indicates that including multiple models of representation, so infusing pictures, graphs, charts, and diagrams, will more effectively promote student understanding. And also, there's a gamut of alternate means of formative assessment within science that can be utilized using writing-based assessments that are writing to learn grounded, questioning, drawings, exit slips. All of these could be included. Next, looking at application within a fourth grade classroom for mathematics, CASA recommends establishing an early focus around meaningful mathematical discourse and making connections to writing expectations. He talks in depth about these connections between the Common Core and looking at discourse and then turning that into writing. And so he recommends utilizing these graphic organizers that scaffold students transitioning their discourse into written form. He also recommends looking for opportunities to promote mathematical reasoning that is focused for discourse and writing, and then hone in on mathematical argumentation, stating a claim or the position to be taken, providing evidence that supports that claim, and the warrants, which is connecting the evidence to the claim. This even opens up the opportunity for potential debate protocols, defending mathematical validity between students. So connecting to existing resources within the content areas, the Common Core state standards help us draw direct connections to where this supports writing activities cross content wise. So the Common Core asks within writing for students to draw evidence from literary information, support their analysis with that evidence, maybe recalling relevant information from things that are gathered from resources to inform their writing, and also writing narratives that develop a real or imagined experience, which is exactly what we're trying to have students do within this historical fiction writing. So they can do all of this through the infusion of historically based content area material. Also, within our fourth grade curriculum, we use the Lucy Calkins writing units of study, and I could do an entire presentation about those, but briefly, they integrate research and literature immersion for a more authentic writing experience for students. Within the science and math content areas, the Common Core makes clear connections within science writing to produce clear, coherent writing that's developed and organized, that has a task, a purpose, and an audience, which is what we talked about earlier with that research. And writing informative and explanatory texts to examine topics and convey ideas. Here I have a link to the NGSS standards, which relate everything back to the Common Core. And then also I included, so my district right now doesn't have a science curriculum per se. We're kind of with the Common Core, with NGSS, given a topic and kind of said, make the best of it. So what a beautiful opportunity to create these writing to learn activities for students, and based around this inquiry model that we're working around discovering phenomenon. Within math, so we have the Common Core that talks about constructing viable arguments and critiquing reasoning, but the NCTM process standards address problem solving, reasoning and proof, communication, representation, and connections. And then in fourth grade, we have the Go Math writing expectations that are incredibly rigorous as well. That's our resource we use for content area. So here we have some research-based classroom activities and assignments that could be utilized within a social studies content area for historical fiction writing. We're looking to immerse students in content area, events, timelines, maps,